All right, welcome to the video today. We're going to talk about the all-important group by. Now, if you've taken Excel, you probably know what group by is already. In Excel, we would call it SUMIF, COUNTIF, average if. That's kind of what the grouping is doing. So let's get into an example. Let's go to the payment table in the Sequila database. And as you see, you have payment amounts for various customers. And so what if I said, well, I want to know how much each customer has paid over their life, okay? So we would say select the customer ID and the amount, right, from payment. Now, if we just ran this, my bad, let's use this, let's just put a little command here. Use Sequila. All right, if we run this, what do we get? We get a list of customers and amounts, but it doesn't group them in any way. It just shows us those two fields. That's all it does. So if we go back to that Sequila database, and where is my Sequila database? There you are. And we go back here to payment, all it's doing is just, so far, it's just grabbing these two fields. That's it. That's all we've done so far, okay? Then if we wanted to say, well, no, I want to know the total amount by customer, okay, we would sum here and we would group by customer ID. So it's going to group by is going to put the customer ID into groups delineated by the unique values. So customer 1, and then customer 2, and then customer 3. It's going to group all of those together and then combine all of the amounts. So if we run this, we should see one amount for customer 1. Look, customer 1 over their life has bought $118.68 worth of goods from us. Grouping is one of the most powerful things about SQL. It's pretty simple. We can get complex with it, but the overall gist is we group things that we want to understand in aggregate. Now, there's one final point that's super important. If you want this total amount, so this is called an aggregate function. Your aggregate functions, as I've already said, are average, sum, count, max, min, standard deviation. There's a couple other, but these are the really important ones, and I've never used standard deviation, but I'm sure it's important. Okay, so those are aggregate functions. When we include an aggregate function and a non-aggregated field, because right here I'm aggregating amount with a sum, but I'm not aggregating customer ID. I'm grouping it, right? So let me put it this way, if we wrote this, okay, select customer ID and I want the sum of amount, this should not work, okay? It says, hey, you aggregated something, but you didn't group what the other field you included in your select statement. So this is the gist, or this is the core idea. If you aggregate something and want it grouped by something, you have to include it in the group by. So if customer ID, which is not aggregated here, appears in the select statement, it must go in the group by if you've got an aggregate function here. If I got rid of this, then yeah, I don't need to group it. But if I want the average of the sales amount for customers, then I need to group customer ID. And by the way, let's get rid of customer ID for a second. Let's say, well, I want the average of staff ID. I want the average amounts by staff ID. Then we need to group by staff ID. I'll give you a last tip before we end here. Anytime you hear the word by when we're using SQL, it means use an aggregate function and put something in the group by. So if I said, I want to see sales amounts by customer, then you know you need the sales amounts, total sales amounts would be sum. You know it's by customer, and you know you need a group by here. I want to see sales by month, by year. Okay, sales by month of the payment date and year by the payment date. And then guess what? These must go in the group by because these are not aggregated fields and they are in the select statement with an aggregated function. So this would show me sales by month by year. Again, anytime we have a non-aggregated field, those are our aggregate functions, so this one's aggregated. Anytime we have a non-aggregated field in the select statement with accompanied by an aggregate function, the non-aggregated fields must appear in the group by.